Hey guys, okay, so these series of videos that I'm doing for you guys are all about using perspective to measure. And we're going to do this one. This one's actually going to be one of the easier concepts with figuring out how to correctly measure space between vertical poles or horizontal boards as you're going back towards the horizon line. So we're going to start. What you can see here is I've got my horizon line and I have got a fence post drawn right here. And so what I need, of course, is a vanishing point. Ta-da! And then I need to draw my vanishing lines from the corner of that post. And of course, what I'm using is Procreate so that I can get those handy dandy straighteners. Okay, so now I have got my vanishing lines going from the corners of my fence post back in the distance to the vanishing point. Now, in order to get these fence posts all properly spaced apart as they are going back to the vanishing point, the first thing I need to do is I need to just, oops, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and draw in the back two. Let's get down here on my vanishing line level. Just go ahead and draw right back here, just to kind of keep it on the easy. There we go. Okay. So we'll go back. So what I was saying is, in order to make sure I'm setting my posts going back towards the vanishing point, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just sort of arbitrarily pick where the next post would be. And I'm going to draw it down. Right down here. Now, as you can see, I've got two posts in the ground. Now, what I'm really trying to figure out here is I've got this space here, and it's going to go, back to the vanishing point. But, as is logical for most of us, these posts would get closer together as they go back into the distance. The question is, at what rate would they get closer together? And that is what this measurement is going to show us. So I'm going to get this out of the way so that it's not confusing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show y'all how to do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to draw, oops, I always like to do my guides with green. You're going to draw an X between these posts, connecting the same corners. So you guys can see I have connected the top corner, the top front corner to the bottom front corner. And here I'm going to connect the same corners. Get that line nice and straight. So you can do this, obviously, with Procreate like I'm doing it. It's also totally fine to do this with a ruler and a sketchbook. It's totally fine to do this in Photoshop. Now, I have got a midpoint. This is the midpoint between these two posts. And now I am going to draw another line from the vanishing point through the midpoint, just like this. And what this is going to show me is how I am going to set the next post correctly proportioned back here. And the way I'm going to do that is I am going to start here and I am going to draw another guideline down through where our midpoint line split the post in the center right here. I'm drawing off of this top first post down through this midpoint where this midpoint line splits the other post, and this tells me where my next post would sink into the ground. So I can go ahead and draw this post right here, coming up, keeping it perpendicular to the horizon line, and another post right behind it. Now I have got another post set correctly into the ground, and just to prove This one also has a midpoint right here. I'm drawing from the top front corner to the bottom front corner, and again the top front corner to the bottom front corner. And as you can see, their midpoints line up pretty well right there. So in order to set the next post here, I am again going to take a line off of that top front corner. Oops. I'm going to run it here through where that midpoint splits the second post, or I'm sorry, splits the third post. So as you can see, this midpoint line is splitting the third post here. I've taken my line off of here, drawn it through this split, and down here, that's where it tells me to put my next post. And again, I'm going to draw this up to the top. Now, essentially, I could do this all the way up to the vanishing point. As long as I am using this top corner and the split through the midline every time I draw a post up, that post is correctly positioned away from the post that precedes it. Now, this can get to be a lot as you're going back like this. And if you go on YouTube right now, you are going to hear lots and lots of comic artists tell you that when they're drawing the windows into a building, they don't necessarily sit here and line, and do the back and up and back and down and back like that. They just don't do that because it does take a lot of time to do it. But again, like I've been saying in other videos in class, what I want you guys to understand is the concept behind this. Because if you stopped right now and then just started trying to eyeball it, it would be pretty obvious that these posts farther back here in the distance were suddenly set many feet away from each other. So when you're starting out, you do kind of want to learn the concept of using that midline and the guide where it divides it to tell you where the next post goes. Now, just for the record, let's go ahead and turn all this off for a second. Turn off everything except for my horizon line. Just for the record, this would also work. That was a vertical line that we were doing before, but this would also work if you were trying to do this as a horizontal line. So let's just say we're going to draw some train tracks. I'm going to draw a cross tie right here. This is the edge of my cross tie coming down. Now, of course, I need to have a vanishing point, and we'll go ahead and draw our vanishing lines off the edge of my cross tie right there. So now I just have to first decide where am I going to place my next cross tie. So what I'm actually going to do is draw the top of the cross tie, because we know cross ties on a railroad track are pretty thick, much thicker than fence posts, as a matter of fact. But then where am I going to put my next one? We'll just put it right here. Right like that. There's another cross tie. Lined up perfectly. And then, if you remember what I did, is I drew off this corner to this same bottom corner, this corner to the same bottom corner, or rather it's the same right corner to the same left corner, and that gives me my midpoint. Now I'm going to draw up through here all the way to the horizon line. Obviously this is going to look like a straight line because our train tracks are running off into the distance. And now what I can do is draw off of this corner down through where it intersects this edge of the box As you can see, this is where it intersects. This is where the midline intersects, and this tells me where my next cross tie would be placed. All the way across, just like that. Ooh, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I have quite a bunch of fire trucks going by outside my studio right now. It's going to be pretty funny if I'm sitting here recording this video and you guys can't hear that at all. So I've drawn the edge of that cross tie. Now we'll draw through there. Oops, I did that in red, and I always like to keep these in green. So I'm drawing off this corner down through my midline, connecting right here. And then I can draw the next cross tie right across like that. And as you guys can see, these are getting positioned closer and closer together, going back into the distance. Well, I'm just going to keep doing that, aren't I? Oh, well, we'll just keep working in. Just going to keep working in red for right now. So you guys can see how these lines, every time I'm making that top cross tie, I'm making it parallel to the horizon line. And at this point, the tracks are almost going to look like they start to run together. So, just to be super clear, right here, here's our cross tie coming out right here. But you guys can see how these have gotten proportionately, you know, these are pretty far apart right here. These are a little bit closer, a little bit closer still, a little bit closer still, and then now we're getting very, very close the farther back we go, all the way into the distance. And the thing that's doing that is using the midpoint right here and using the line, the guideline that goes through and cuts through where the edge of the outside edge of the rectangle cuts through and connects over here to the vanishing point. So essentially what you're doing is you're using your vanishing points to do this, and you're using this midline point to do this, and you're making sure that you're starting by drawing your box right here to find that midline point. Now, this box is actually going to be super important when we talk about measuring characters in perspective, which is going to be in another one of the videos.